Idaho Matters podcast is brought to you by St. Luke's On-Demand Virtual Care, which allows patients to see a provider from their home using a computer or smartphone with on-demand care for common ailments, such as a cough, sore throat, or a sinus issue. More information at stlukesonline.org.
Think you've missed too much of the Idaho legislative session to catch up? Not even close. Our Legislative Roundup newsletter is following the biggest budget decisions, key debates, and everything else happening at the State House in one quick read every Monday. It's not too late to stay informed. Subscribe today at boisestatepublicradio.org.
More Idaho Matters now from the studios of Boise State Public Radio News. I'm Gemma Gaudette. That sonata comes to us from Pendulum Early Music, a trio of Boise musicians who play Baroque music from the 16th through 18th centuries. And they're in the middle of their second concert season. All their performances happen at St. Michael's Episcopal Cathedral in Boise. The trio and St. Michael's picked up grants for their concerts last year from Boise's Arts and History Grant Program, which hands out cash to groups and people who are creating projects designed to help make Boise a better place to live. So returning to the show are Brian Hodges on the cello, Jeffrey Hill on the violin, and Kevin McTeague also on the cello, along with David Harrison with Canon for Music at St. Michael's Episcopal Cathedral. I want to welcome all of you to the program. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having us, Gemma.
Thank you.
Absolutely. You're more than welcome. Brian, let me start with you. Can you tell us what Pendulum Early Music is? I mean, what kinds of music do you play? How did the trio get together?
Yeah, well, it's like you said, we focus on music, mostly of the Baroque period, although it fluctuates a little bit earlier, maybe slightly later as well. But we're really interested in trying to replicate what this music would have sounded like in that time period. So we use gut strings, we use Baroque bows. The cellists don't use in pins. Jeff doesn't use a chin rest. All things that we think they would have done back in that time period. Again, to try to make that experience of what it might have sounded like in that time period. And we met just because of a shared interest. Jeff and I and David and I both play in the Boise Baroque Orchestra. And Kevin's also an early music enthusiast, and so we just met because of this shared interest.
So Jeff, I know as Brian just said, you play in the Boise Baroque Orchestra, but you also play in the Boise Philharmonic, and you're a private teacher on top of that. How do you find time to do all of this?
Yeah, that's correct, Gemma. It's a really good question, and if you find an answer, let me know. No, it's really just a matter of, and in addition to that, I'm a new father as well, so it's really it's really it's a task of figuring out what really matters and what doesn't, and learning what to focus on. And I don't think I've found yet the perfect equation for it, but it does help you find out what matters. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Brian, my understanding is you've played the cello all over the country, and you write a lot about the cello as well, including writing about cello secrets. Can you talk to us about your career and how, how all of this has evolved coming together to end up playing with Pendulum?
Yeah, well, my main job is actually I'm the cello professor here at Boise State University. I play in Boise Baroque and then, do solo stuff around town. And I somehow find time to write. It's kind of always been a passion of mine. So I have published two books on the cello. But actually, my interest in early music started in high school. I took a an elective course at a summer music camp called Shakespeare's Music. And I showed up on the first day of class, and they handed this instrument called the viola da gamba in my hand, and which I had no idea what it was. And then that started that journey of my interest in early music. And here I am, all these years later.
And Kevin, let me bring you into the conversation. You
Sure.
started cello quite early, but you put it down for your other career. So why did you decide to come back to Baroque music?
Well, I had always wanted to play the cello again and come back to it, but I found myself very busy. I had a career in the public sector or a nonprofit sector. I was working for Terry Riley Health Services here in Boise. Later, I worked for Ada County and did the startup of their Family Justice Center. And these are just really demanding, busy jobs. And then I decided at 55, I took early retirement to stay home with my children while my doctor wife was busy doing her work and taking call. And I just decided, this is a great time. I have the time, I have a cello. I'm going to start doing it again. And I just slowly began to essentially relearn how to play the instrument. And it probably took me about 5 or 6 years before I actually felt ready to perform. And so, in a sense, I am a little bit the odd man out in this group, but I also bring to it a lot of nonprofit management skills. And so I'm able to, help raise funds and write grant proposals and put these things together. But I think mainly, when I came back to the cello, very early on, I heard some Baroque cellists performing and just thought, that's the sound I want to make. And I just love that. And so I very quickly moved to putting gut strings on my cello and kind of going down that road of historical performance and haven't looked back.
I want to play just a little bit more from Pendulum Early Music. So let's take a listen to this. So, David, what is it about St. Michael's Cathedral that lends itself so well to this kind of music and these types of concerts?
Well, I believe, it's the ideal size and acoustical disposition. We have a lot of hardwood surfaces. The ceilings are high, but not too high, so that you get a full appreciation of all the intricacies of this small ensemble music. And we as a community at the cathedral are also of similar values with Pendulum Early Music in wanting to enrich the community with musical excellence that speaks to our own musical and worship tradition as Episcopalians as well. So I'm just really thrilled and delighted that we get to host them and that I get the honor of playing with them on occasion. So it does seem to be a great match.
So, David, talk a little bit more about that because your vocal ensemble is going to be part of next Monday's concert. Can you tell us about your singers?
Sure. Well, choral music is very central to the Episcopal worship tradition, and we do have multiple choirs. The Schola Cantorum, or choral scholars, are our resident professional choir. And for this concert, we have them scaled out to 12 singers, and they will be singing music of Jean Gilles, a French composer from the 17th century, who wrote three lamentation settings from the prophet Jeremiah. And it's just the perfect way to begin Holy Week. It's written for voices and small string ensemble and continuo. So it's just a prime example of how we can partner together to do
Mhm.
sacred music in particular in a space that's ideal.
And if you're just joining us, we are talking with Jeffrey Hill, Brian Hodges, and Kevin McTeague of Pendulum Early Music, along with David Harrison with Canon for Music at St. Michael's Episcopal Cathedral. And we're talking about their upcoming concerts in Boise, which will be at the cathedral. And I do want to play just a little bit more of their really beautiful music. So let's take a listen. So, David, you've got concerts on March 30th, and then you have another one on May 9th. Can you talk a little bit about Monday's concert? Because, um, this really is sacred music. We're going into Holy Week next week for people um, who recognize Holy Week. So, what will folks be hearing?
Well, again, it's the Jean-Gilles Lamentations,
Mm-hmm.
a set of three of them, and they're going to be interspersed with some unaccompanied choral repertoire by Francis Poulenc, who's from the early 20th century, and wrote some. He wrote four motets specifically for penitential seasons in the church, and this pairing really sets the mood for Holy Week in our meditation on the Passion of the Christ and on texts of lamentation and reproach. And so these two works from these two different periods are going to be interspersed with each other, and they really do create a striking contrast of musical textures and moods. So it really
Um,
does set the stage beautifully for the rest of the week.
yeah, it really sounds like it. So, Brian, why is it important to you to keep playing Baroque music in the day and age that we live in?
Well, partly is there's so much music from this time period to explore and to learn about. There's just, I mean, we know the biggies like Bach and Vivaldi and
Mm-hmm.
Handel, Corelli, but there's, I mean, so many more that are just are not very well known, but their music deserves to be played. And we just all really enjoy exploring this side of our instruments and music making and this little bit of history, I guess.
Well, I want to thank all of you so much for taking time to come in and talk with us. We've been speaking with Jeffrey Hill, Brian Hodges, and Kevin McTeague of Pendulum Early Music, along with David Harrison with Canon for Music at St. Michael's Episcopal Cathedral in downtown Boise. We've been discussing their upcoming concerts in Boise. They'll have one next week, March 30th, and then again on May 9th, which all of this was made possible in part by grants from the Boise Arts and History Grant Program. You've been listening to the Idaho Matters podcast from Boise State Public Radio. To stay in touch, you can find quick Idaho Daily News every morning when you subscribe to the Connector podcast. And if you haven't yet, could I ask you to leave us a review wherever you listen? We read every single one, and we'd love to hear from you.